Um, the most important matter for today is really the emphasis relating to our standard operating procedure as it relates to the last 2 weeks of training, and that's the dispensing of THC. We've had a really wonderful opportunity this week when we were highlighted as a question mark as to why we were able to legally dispense THC. And of course, some people went to social media and what's the opportunity? And the reason why I've referred to it as an opportunity is because it gave us the chance to look at our procedures, to refine our procedures. We're in the process right now, and between now and the end of this month, before the beginning of the new financial year, 1 June, to refine these processes and to have a total quality management system in place. Just by way of introduction, of course, the key principle is that we should refrain in the medium term from the concept of selling THC, and that we should remain within the ambit of the research project that empowers us to be able to dispense controlled Schedule 6 medicine. And that means there are certain anecdotal and pertinent kind of referencing that we need to define. Everyone needs to rest assured that we will have significant emphasis on this topic to basically commit the entire business to a single standard operating procedure. Anton, thank you very much for the design and drafting in that regard. And I do believe that this session will continue again next week. I want Anton to do a quick introduction of the importance of a standard operating procedure and the importance of complying with that procedure. Last week and the week before, James used the professional information leaflet for THC as the resource document and the reference document for everyone to be able to lay the key concepts and precepts that's applicable to it. We will continue with that today. And we also have a particular standard operating procedure that we will share with you today, as well as refine for the way forward. We need to be expertly competent and compliant with this during this month of May, so that from the 1st of June, we meet every single regulation and requirement to the letter as far as SAHPRA is concerned. This is the African Health Products Regulatory Authority. As far as the Clinical Trial Committee of SAHPRA is concerned, as far as the new private bill, recommended private bill is concerned, as far as the Pharma Ethics Committee of South Africa is concerned. So it sounds like quite a lot of heavy kind of text or concepts at this point. However, the curriculum for this particular purpose, it is a medicinal cannabis regulatory, dispensary, and retail as a unit standard on its own, will certainly make you more competent and qualified than any other people operating the cannabis economy at the moment. Anton, by way of introduction, if you don't mind, just sharing with everyone the importance of a total quality management system as the business, and then James will take us through the SOP itself. I am working on this document at the moment with a few little kind of corrections as far as the spelling and the context and so on is concerned, but we don't want to do any rush jobs with anything. So Anton, I'm over to you for a few minutes, please.
Hi there, guys. Okay, my name is Anton Swanepoel. I've been with Labat for the last 7 years, even prior to this, to the birth of Labat Healthcare and Cannafrica. So for, let's call it the mother company, Labat, I was the quality system manager drafting policies, procedures, and all of that. And that's what I'm currently doing now, is to ensure that we've got a quality management system with policies and procedures up and running, as well as SOPs. And then the biggest thing with regards to a quality management system is not only that it is used on a daily basis in what we do and how we do it, but it is also important from a back office or head office point of view when it comes to audits, whereby, for instance, we're going to discuss the dispensing of THC, the onboarding process. And as Herschel has said now, it is very important that, you know, the wording and the phrase and or what is discussed or communicated is done correctly. So from an audit point of view, somebody will come in and they will audit our policy or our startup manual, our operation manual. They look at our SOPs, they will look at our procedures, our backup documents for each and every one of them, like the THC leaflet, the information leaflet, the onboarding document, the SOP, the operating manual. Now, as I ramble through all of these, each and every one of them are tied together in some way, and that is what the importance of this is, so that within the mother company, which is Labat, that the policies and procedures within Labat Healthcare and then within Cannafrica, all of them are working towards the same objective as having a system, a quality management system in place. And then, of course, yes, on the ground, each and every manager, supervisor, staff member, whatever your capacity is, that you understand the holistic approach and the view, what we share as HQ, and then how it needs to flow down to the ground level, that it's implemented correctly, the right wording is used, and yeah, at the end of the day, all the loose ends then can be tied up. Herschel, that in a nutshell is about it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anton. I just wanted to just also emphasize that whilst it sounds rather technical, please note that this is the discerning difference between ourselves and everybody else in South Africa. It's in such a way where you have to consider yourself as an ambassador of not just Africa, but also for the cannabis economy. And at the same time, our primary role as far as that sale and conversion process is concerned is to educate the consumer market. There are a few key documents that are applicable for this purpose. We're going to package them very, very nicely in the next 2-3 days. We're going to ensure that all of you have access to the Biodata Research Project mobile app, at least what that messaging is. Our master clinical agreement with our clinical research organization, the protocol design document. The protocol document really is that a very, very rigid framework within which we must present our business and demonstrate our competence. There's also a protocol pharma ethics document that will be shared with everyone, as well as the University of the Western Cape Faculty of Pharmaceutical Chemistry. These are all the key building blocks to ensure that we have the necessary enablers in place to deal with controlled substances and as far as the Narcotics Act is concerned. James, you do have the biodata letter that goes to participants. I'm going to write this out and include it in the SOP after our debrief between yourself, Anton, and myself in the next day. And that way, everybody will have access to the key resources. And now that we will be creating a shared drive and a folder for each franchisee, all the source documentation will be in there. The key discerning difference, everyone, people, is that when we do things this way, we are definitively distinguishing ourselves, definitively distinguish ourselves from everybody else in the space. So those are that's the documentation. James, please also just make a mention of the biodata letter to the participants, because that takes care of the POPI Act and the other matters relating to the price list, the wording changing to contribution or fund. These things will all be written down in the next 24 hours for everyone to really familiarize themselves with it. I'm going to hand over to James to take us through the SOP in a nice, measured and slow way, so everybody clearly understands it. And you, of course, everybody will have an opportunity to familiarize themselves with the content hereafter. Thank you so much. Please go ahead, James.
Lovely. Thank you, Herschel. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. This is training session number 7. This is being recorded. This will be uploaded onto our YouTube channel, so we'll have easy reference to this, and we can refer back to it just to keep this forefront in our minds. And so this is the research participant onboarding procedure. Through this table of contents, we're going to go through the purpose, the organizational scope, the policy statement. We're going to give you the background. We're going to show how the process flows and how and define the responsibilities. And so these guidelines are issued by Biodata not only as a prescription of standards of behavior, ethics, and accountability, which is required of its public service, but also as a statement of Biodata's commitment to an onboarding system which enables data-driven capturing and thorough record keeping of new and existing participants for the Biodata research project. This is information that can and will assist the management of Cannafrica managers, franchisees, owners, supervisors, and staff. And so here in section 1, the purpose of this procedure is to inform and guide all relevant personnel with a clear step-by-step process to be followed, with specific reference to the patron or the client onboarding process for the Biodata research participant project. And so in recent years, crowdfunding has transformed the traditional fundraising landscape, breaking down the barriers between those in need and those available to help them. This is of significant importance as we explore, test, and research the efficacy of medicinal cannabis compounds, cannabis-derived formulations, cannabis-based medicines, and therapies as we journey towards precision medicines manufacturing. So that's the purpose of this. The organizational scope, so Labatt Africa is the holding company for a number of subsidiaries. The highly creative, THC, that's the name of the company, the highly creative, owns IP, which is intellectual property, such as genetics, technology, and processes. African Cannabis Enterprises, which is ACE Genetics, is a cannabis company which owns various genetics and currently trades in raw cannabis materials. We also have Sweetwater Aquaponics, which is a GACP, GMP, and SUPRA-approved cannabis cultivation and processing facility, which is where the Cannafrica flower is grown. Biodata is the research and development arm of Labatt Africa, and Biodata focuses on paving the road forward in assessing the participants in the possibility of using cannabis as a treatment for patients for a variety of ailments. Cannafrica is the retail division of the business, which manufactures, markets, and retails a wide range of infused health and wellness products. Bringing us to our third point, which is the policy statement. And so this policy serves to ensure that the correct onboarding procedures are used at the Cannafrica facilities, shops, and kiosks at all times. Crowdfunding has transformed the traditional fundraising landscape, and we endeavor breaking down the barriers in cannabis-based medicines. To go on to point 4, which is the background. And so this will tell us that this procedure applies to all employees who are involved in the onboarding of biodata research participants. It is also essential that the correct information is shared with the patron or the client, and that all participants are required to complete the onboarding information sheet. So this SOP, this standard operating procedure, needs to be adhered to, as products containing THC are considered a Schedule 6 product by SAPRA. Bringing us to point 5, which is the process flow. And so the first touch point of this is number 1, when the patron or the client inquires about the biodata research project. Then the store or the kiosk staff or the supervisor or the manager will explain the biodata research project to the patron or the client, taking them on through to point 3, which is the contribution model needs to be explained to the client or the patron. Followed by the client's if the client requests products related to the biodata research project, and then the client can now become a future participant. Point 6 refers to possible participants are given the biodata research onboarding information sheet, and that biodata research onboarding information sheet is explained to the participant. Following that, the biodata research onboarding information sheet is read, completed, and signed by the participant. The facility, the store, or the kiosk staff can then check that all fields are correctly filled in. Thereafter, the participant can select a product. The participant can make a contribution towards the research project. Following that, we'll come to point 12, which is when the participant is handed the product fact sheet for perusal in their own time. So this is a fact sheet that they can take with them, and when they have the time, we highly suggest that they go through this. Point 13 is the product type is captured on the back of the biodata research onboarding information sheet, and that profile is created on the biodata research register, which for our kiosks and stores will be on the point of sale on a Google Sheet. Moving on to point 15, which is when the information from the biodata research onboarding information sheet and product purchase is captured on the biodata research register. And then for repeat purchases of the product, these need to be recorded digitally on the biodata research register, which is the Google Sheet, as I alluded to a moment ago. And once the profile is already present, and the facility or the store, the kiosk staff need to just search on the participant's name. So this will be an ongoing, every time a participant comes to the store, their name will be brought up on the Google Sheet, and any additional product needs to be captured and recorded. Heading number 6 is responsibilities, and so it is to be known and enforced by Cannafrica head office and management. And all managers are to be aware of the biodata research onboarding processes with the standard operating procedures and the needs to ensure compliance at all times. Whether it's owners or franchisers or managers or store supervisors and staff, we need to familiarize ourselves. They need to familiarize themselves with the biodata onboarding process and ensure that all of the information as per this SOP is complied with. At ground level, the stores, kiosk, or facilities are to be trained and ensure that the onboarding processes are followed to the letter. All patrons or clients are to be informed on all processes of the onboarding process, whether that be documentation, and that needs to be completed and compiled with. With in-store staff, supervisors and managers are to at all times try and strive to ensure that the information supplied that is filled in on the onboarding information sheets that information needs to be correct. And so when it comes to our patrons and clients that contribute towards the onboarding process, so these processes are to be issued and handed to the patient, handed the patient information leaflet and the cannabis fact sheet. A patron or client at this point becomes a posable participant in the future, assisting with us with the Biodata research project. So that brings us to the end of this SOP. We just need to make sure that that these steps are followed to the letter. We need to ensure that the data that we are receiving from the patrons is true and correct, and most importantly, we need to capture every purchase that they make, not just that first purchase. When they return a contribution for product, and so when they return, we need to bring up their name and then populate as they receive more product. I think that covers the SOP there.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. We of course will have the all the documentation available. We're going to circulate the operating procedure when we are after it's signed off tomorrow, as well as all the other support documentation.
Excellent.
Can we allow an opportunity for questions and just talk somewhat less formally about the process of when people approach the kiosk or the store and what the experiences have been? I do know that one is kind of tempted to say, you know what, fill in that form, you can get your THC. We unfortunately have to speak exactly the same language. We're going to literally provide you with a script, the literal script of what it is that's being said word for word in the first introduction of the offer of products from our retail chain. So James, maybe you can just field and deal with some questions from.
Excellent. Thank you there. Guys, does anyone have a pressing question, something that is forefront in their minds, or are we very clear as to how these processes need to be completed?
James, maybe just from my side, maybe just a comment quickly.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at the SOP that you went through now, some of the wording and all the individuals that's currently taking part in this training session or this information sharing session
Mm-hmm.
will know or note that on the information leaflet, the fact sheet, right at the back, right at the bottom, there's a little paragraph that says, in recent years, crowdfunding has transformed the traditional fundraising landscape, breaking down the barriers between those in need and those available to help them. This is a significant importance as we explore, test, and research the effective efficiency of medicinal cannabis compounds, cannabis-derived formulations, cannabis-based medicines, and therapies, and we journey towards prescription medicine manufacturing. Now, that paragraph also feature in our SOP. And since I had my fact sheets and given out, subsequent to what has happened in the time that has left, I've actually now taken a highlighter and highlighted that little paragraph.
You make perfect sense.
Even if the patron, client, whoever, takes it and he doesn't read it, but that is highlighted. It is. I don't want to say that it supersedes anything on this information sheet, as all the information is applicable, but the information sheet is a little bit more directed at the THC product itself, advantages, disadvantages, and so forth, whereby that little last paragraph is more towards the company and SOPs and compliance and so forth.
Yes, I'm in full agreement with you there, Anton. And so I think it's something that we can look at from a head office perspective and possibly just make it italic or bold so that, it has a way of standing out and to ensure compliance. I had recently a point where a consumer came to the newly opened Green Acres kiosk, and she didn't want to share her ID number. And you know, there is, if you don't comply to the data that is required on the form, then there is no transfer of product. And there's no way around it. If we don't get the full onboarding sheet filled out and make sure that the information is correct, then there will be no movement of product. Has anyone else had experience that with people that are unwilling to complete these forms? I don't think it should be a problem.
No, but I have a little different point, James, if I can just put it up here. Okay, so for, how can I say, for a storefront that deals with load shedding and all of that, how do we actually get the point of sale and the machine is off?
Yeah.
How do we search that client at the moment that he comes to the shop? And then how can I say, check him? I know you can say use your phone, but that's not the point. The normal guy won't do that. But what do you do in a situation like that? Do we have like a little manual form to record his sale if we know the client?
That's exactly what I was going to suggest, Dean. If it's one of your regulars and you're familiar with them, we obviously have a manual sales sheet for when the point of sale is done. So we capture this information twice, once on the manual sales sheet, and then obviously once the point of sale is running, it needs to be captured on the point of sale. If it is somebody that you're familiar with and somebody that you know has already onboarded onto the Biodata research project, I think it is just safe to make a hard physical copy of exactly the products that need to be recorded. And then once the point of sale is running, it needs to be captured on that Google Sheet so that at any point we can refer to a participant and see a history of exactly which products were acquired on which dates. And that is very important for us for the research. It is literally as important as the actual onboarding. And so it's not just a case of a consumer comes to one of our outlets, onboards, and then we don't keep any track of their products. And so it's as important as the initial filling out of the forms is that every time they return and product is taken, then we need to have a record of that.
Yeah, Dean, thank you very much for that. I think it's a very, very worthwhile point. I do believe that with the current updating of the operating manual for the franchisee environment or for the retail environment, we will have some mitigating instruments or hard copy documents that can serve as a backup for those moments when we have those challenges. One of the key things that we now have realized that we have to do is that we have to include alternative energy solutions and inverters as part of the setup cost of a franchise. And this will be updated in our documentation, but well spotted, noted, and we are definitely going to be addressing that in the coming days. Thanks, Dean.
Cool. Thank you, Dean. Anybody else when it comes to the specifically the onboarding for participants? Tulani, do you find things smooth? Everything smooth in Ballito? You have no trouble with onboarding and the continuation of these patrons returning to us and then making a firm note.
Your signal is terrible.
Here in Ballito, so far so good. People were there few instances when customers didn't want to leave like their ID numbers, and we were adamant that we were not going to sell to them up until they actually gave us the numbers. But so far we're good. Handing out things as we are supposed to be. But I've got a request which is kind of like unrelated to today. I don't know if I should put it on this platform or we should talk about it on the side.
No, sorry, what was that, Tulani?
I'm saying I've got a separate request which I don't think I should put on this platform.
Then you and I can discuss it after this.
Yes.
Super.
James, how are you, James?
Hello there.
Good. James, in regards to the to onboarding, a lot of our clientele are also foreign. Is it necessary for them to have their old ID number there, or just the date of birth?
If they're foreign, then we
to
would
make it easier then.
Ideally we would like their passport number. Vince?
Besides the point, it's like it's gonna make it much more harder for us to onboard them because I'd feel very suspect giving my ID number to someone. I mean, just talking from the client's point. No.
Anton, can you assist us on that one?
Well, the thing is, James, I think it's very important that, well,
we need as much data as we can get.
That's it. You know, the thing is, you know, and Herschel has mentioned it about the POPI Act, and you know, this is an onboarding process, and that is defined in our ethics process and procedures, as well as the you know, the biodata stuff. You know, so I wouldn't like to say that we can continue without a passport number or a full ID number. I think Herschel needs to jump in there, but yeah, you know, that little information sheet is as short, I think, as it can be. It's got the least information with the most information that we require, I reckon, at this point in time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anton. I think maybe just as a point of departure, let's please understand that nobody hesitates to provide an ID number when they step into a pharmacy. All right, you have to be over the age of 18 to be able to buy CBD products. You have to be, the Constitution renders the use of cannabis for personal use for adults. So observe your space as that of a dispensary, and believe me when I tell you, when you insist on these kinds of procedures, you really invest a lot in the trustworthiness of your brand. People actually feel safe in that regard. And obviously your traditional kind of stoner recreational use community would find that somewhat challenging, or maybe somewhat reluctant. I want to accept with what Vince says. We could accept the date of birth next to the presentation of the ID to the person that's engaging that particular consumer, and that person will then not be eligible to be part of our clinical trials and research projects. But we have verified the age, and they've been duly informed, and they've been onboarded in terms of someone old enough to be able to acquire and consume the product. So please note that the absence of the ID number, in other words, firstly, date of birth is fine with presentation of the ID. Just so you can know that the person is indeed the date of birth and the person is old enough, okay? Secondly, we are currently working on various incentive schemes for those who onboard and participate in the research, in other words, filling in questionnaires and so on. And then, James, I just want you to share the document, let me just quickly find the note here, the biodata letter to the participants, if you can find it. If not, no problem. But it's important that we include in the procedure that when people on board, that we show them the letter that they will receive online. So we just yesterday finalizing troubleshooting the process of the MailChimp and the 2-3 weekly kind of intervals in between where people were receiving questionnaires to participate in the research. When they do so, they will be incentivized, not just with discounts for other products, but also for access to at least 14 grams of THC cannabis per month. But I'll refine that and then share that with you guys Thursday. So Vince's point is valid. We have to verify age. That is primarily most important. And it's also important that we see ourselves as dispensaries. Now, not the colloquial or the street name of a dispensary, which is like a THC cannabis shop.
Mm-hmm.
That is not what it refers to when we say dispensary. We must see ourselves as a wellness clinical kind of medicinal cannabis dispensary. That's where you go to acquire THC medicine, knowing exactly where it was grown, what the active ingredients are for all the different strains and genetics. And you'll see how this makes more and more sense as we kind of meander this road over the next months. You can kindly expect quite a bit of information and packs that will be sent out as part of operator manuals for the retail outlets. It will give you a whole lot of confidence with regard to how it is that you present this. In addition to that, as I stated earlier, as far as the onboarding, welcoming somebody into the store, into the dispensary, there's a script there. It's word for word. It's only the first 5-10 sentences, 5-8-10 sentences. That's word for word exactly that, and then you can naturalize the engagement for the retail experience of the consumer.
Yeah, Herschel, can I add like 5 cents there? Sorry. So with
Go
this
ahead.
whole
Is that 5 cents including or excluding VAT, Dean?
excluding.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So I think this whole date of birth thing, that's kind of, we shouldn't even entertain that. I don't think we even want those type of people visiting the stores, because that's going to be your stoners or something. And if they're not willing to provide that information for the research project, then they can't join it. It's actually as simple as that.
You're 100%, you're spot on there, Dean. If they're not willing to give us the information that we require, then basically they fail the criteria to become a participant.
Yes, can I just emphasize, guys, I'll provide you with clarity on this. Please note the first thing is about adult use. And as far as the observational study is concerned, and you'll get a lot of clarity from this. I'm going down the next few weeks and months. As far as our protocol design document is concerned, the inclusion criteria.
Open your door.
Just the inclusion criteria, for instance, for the observational study is exclusively for people, and we will get to a formal issue on this in the next coming days, for people who have used cannabis for at least 3 to 4 years, and that's since 2018, the Constitutional Court ruling. So the observational study is sure that there you need an adult. For the clinical trial and the clinical trial studies, I mean, there are different requirements for that purpose, Dean. And also, please note that you don't need the ID number of the individual, for instance, for CBD. You just need to note that the person is an adult and old enough. So I'll I commit that I will clarify this very clearly for you in the very, very clear ABC kind of. I know it will look like it's a condescending, I don't mean it like that. It's just for you to be crystal clear as to what is the requirement, how do you say it, and how do you deal with it. Just to differentiate between those two. But very, very valid. Thank you very much, Dean.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for that explanation there. Thank you. And so, guys, what I'm going to do after, like Herschel mentioned, by tomorrow, I'm going to get the letter that the participants will receive from Biodata once they've onboarded. I will get that through to Monica, and so I'll email it to all of the participants. I'll also put it onto the training group WhatsApp group. So thank you very much, guys. This was training session 7, which dealt with the Biodata onboarding processes. This is a recorded session, and this will you'll be able to find this on our YouTube channel. So I'd like to
thank you very much for that. I just wanted to just quickly emphasize that the learning material will be circulated to everyone. We've just wrapped up our curriculum, and for those who are interested to do an assessment over the next month or two, will actually be with a formal qualification in continuing proficiency aligned to the QCTO and the National Qualification Framework. So if those who are interested can follow or at least familiarize themselves with the learning material and all of the documentation, and you will be among the first in South Africa, among very, very few, other than Sheba, of course. Sheba is more focused on continued proficiency of medical doctors, but we're working with all the necessary authorities to have formal qualifications for what we refer to as new occupational categories. So there'll be specific job categories with certain career mobility opportunities for all of you. We are also recruiting currently 150 different individuals who will be trained according to that system and that curriculum, and these people will become the staff and the human resources in your existing illegal dispensaries. So we start to begin to bring system and structure and order to the illegal dispensaries, many of whom we will probably be taking over in the coming 18 to 24 months. But that is my contribution for today. I think, Vince, did you want to say something?
You know, from a business point of view, back into the onboarding process, and in regards to the ID and the date of birth, if you get stubborn clients who don't really want to put their date of birth, their ID number on there, your business is not going to survive. Especially if we're a medical company and we're going into high-end malls, so we're going to need them. You're going to need those people. Those type of people, they're going to keep the business running. I've been in this industry now for, I think, 3 or 4 years or so. I've got my shops running, so I've learned the market a little more. So we need to make it as easy as possible. We need to make it as easy as possible.
I don't think we are disagreeing. But we're not disagreeing at all. I think we have dealt with that. We the SOP in respect of the observational study and in respect of other research. So will clearly indicate the date of birth is sufficient.
Sorry, Ash?
I said we will clarify that where date of birth will be sufficient in respect of the adult status of the individual.
Providing an ID, I think that's fair. I don't know. We'll see.
No, the ID will be necessary for the clinical research. What I'm saying is we stipulate that word for word, but for general purposes, people must have the opportunity to deny giving their ID details. I'm one of those kinds of individuals, by the way. I'm a general. So we will clearly specify if people want to onboard on the clinical research for treatment of a particular ailment, and they need a prescription from our assigned medical practitioners. And for that purpose, we will have that. But then they will onboard through a different kind of process, right? Some of our current outlets include consultation rooms as well. And we have just yesterday concluded our process with regard to onboarding our team of medical doctors, and people will be able to engage them one-on-one online and also via the stores to actually get that script for the purpose. I think when people come in for the purpose of recreational use and for private use, for adult use, that's one thing. But there are many people, the bulk of our market that we are looking at, onboarding a new consumer and onboarding people who really want relief from ailments, from discomforts, and from disease. So we thanks for that, Vince. I'm comfortable with your input, and we will definitely stipulate it very, very clearly in the respective SOPs, which we will have finalized.
Perfect. Thanks, Ash.
And each one of us will have word for word. We'll have it laminated in the at the retail consumer-facing level. And that is the verbiage. That's the script. That is how we deal with it. And if people say, "Okay, I'm not comfortable giving my ID number," I say, "Well, then you cannot participate in that project. But as far as the observational study is concerned, can you please give us proof of adulthood, of being older than the age of 18?" Okay.
Yeah, the thing is, Herschel, we must just know that we cannot have kamikaze pilots out there that can, at the end of the day, sink the Titanic, which is the mother company. We're not the taxi rank. We don't deal in bankies and stuff like that. That is the market that we want to attract. Well, then I definitely think that whoever is thinking like that, should not be on this platform. We cannot change face, unfortunately. We will have to keep face at this point in time. And you said from the beginning that we need to be differentiated from front leaders, taking on the system and changing the system for the better. That will automatically be beneficial to everybody out there. But we cannot have somebody walk in here, and they will walk in there, and they will test you, and they will try you, and there might be a illicit guy, and there might be a banky guy that walks in here, and as we've seen it on YouTube and TikTok and all of that, then the guy takes us on, and it is those individuals specifically for that reason that is taking us on, that if we are not different from them, then, we don't stand by what we preach.
No, I'm very comfortable, Anton. At the risk of being repetitive, remember we have a CBD product, we have a THC product, we have an study, we have clinical trials. So there are different streams, and for each different stream, there'll be a different SOP that's applicable for purposes of compliance. I'm very comfortable that we will be able to dispense of and deal with any concerns around any one of those, for us to remain fully compliant, and for our SOP and our script to enable that at that store level. Not the problem. Right. Thank you so much, colleagues. Anton, James, we will be in touch in the next hours and tomorrow morning, and we can just quickly wrap up our various instruments for our retail outlets.
Herschel, maybe you, James, Mark, just hang on a second if everybody's off.
No problem.
100%.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Guys.
Take care.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Good to see you. I think we're all here. Go ahead.
Okay.
Does it need to be recorded? Hi, sorry guys. Does it need to be
recording now?
No, the thing is, Herschel, I think I made it quite clear that that this meeting should be, or this training session should be compulsory.
James, you can end the recording now.
I think